type is everywhere. It is so ubiquitous that it almost becomes invisible to us. Because sometimes we are so close to the content that we forget to take a step back and ask the bigger question. How can you make type work for you? But then again, you might say, come on, typography, dude. It's only a little text. What difference does it make? It's just text. Yeah, well, okay. Then let's just see what happens if we removed that little text and made it invisible. Actually made it invisible. On my business network, where's the inspirational quote that carries me through the day? How could I make up my mind which piece of furniture to build? And not even on YouTube, I couldn't decide which video to watch. It's the one on the top right. But though you see, without text, if it actually was invisible, our user interfaces would become quite useless. But it's not that type is actually invisible, and it can become pretty visible if something's going wrong. Oh my God! God, please! So something died inside of me when I did that slide, sorry. And it will never come back, I'm afraid. But yeah. It can be very subtle at first. Maybe in your banking app, this text is a bit too light for the background. It's not ideal. I'm bothered by that. But then it can be a bit more striking even with an inappropriate font choice like here. Come on, at this ski resort in Austria, who wants to go skiing with lobster? I don't want to. And this is the reason why I will never go with my family to Schladming. Never. We're going somewhere else where the type is better. But, if I go there, I hope I do not have to go with the Belgian railways, because it can also end up in pure typographic rampage. It is merely a miracle how I could arrive here. How anybody can get anywhere. It's just okay. Let's leave that away. So now it's serious time again, okay? So because to the user, the interface is the product. So, and as you already saw, this interface shows a lot of text. So text is a big part of it. And since this interface is the part that delights users or frustrates them, the text that is shown there always conveys a feeling, a meaning, an atmosphere. Something is always there. It's never neutral. So an expression of something with melting together shape, content, and function. This is the exciting part here with type. It's always one thing that comes together, and you see this in type. You cannot separate those. Now, it could be a heartfelt expression of love and affection, or maybe from a prince in a fairy tale. Or is it that note from the creepy stalker next door? Is it him again? It's all the same content, just different typefaces, so it changes the voice of your project. Okay, so now you got this cool typography dude, super enthusiastic about this, but once you're back to your wonderful workplace and you sit in front of your next beautiful project, all these questions start to pop up. Font choice, hierarchy, accessibility, size, success, basic contrast, personality. Ah, it's so much, I can't take it, no! A moment to calm down here, my friend, because after the next 30 minutes, you will know how to pick right typefaces for a project with clear hierarchies in mind, solving sizes, contrast, and spacing, so that your next UI design project will show more personality with accessibility in mind, making it successful. And what does success mean? Money, money, money. And this is why, again, we're going to design a banking app together. This one here. Together, we're going to redesign this horrible piece of mediocrity and deliver it to higher grounds. So, are you ready here? Are you ready now to deliver that piece of visual mediocrity from its tragic appearance? Are you ready? Yeah. Are you ready to elevate it to higher grounds? Yes. Are you ready to pimp that type? Yes. Then say it to me. Pimp that type. Pimp that type. Pimp that type. Yay. And so we will do. I had to come up with something that was fitting this environment. So, but we're starting very calm now again with the font choice. Because this is the first part we should consider. Why? Because it's the first thing and it has the most effect on everything that's happening later. So, your font choice. Well, couldn't we combine these things when it comes to UI typography again? Thinking about what does UI fonts actually mean? It has to work under tough conditions, which might be small sizes, low resolution, hard conditions. And then also dynamic content, various languages. So this is what UI text is, or UI fonts, so to say, are. So let's maybe just use system fonts and chill. Why not? I mean, it's a dude. It's not a typography dude, but it's a dude. So I guess he's right somehow. I guess. Maybe. Oh, sorry. I was so bored. I was just so bored right now. Look, it's not you. It's not you. It's just Roboto. Sorry. So it was just Roboto. And it's nothing bad with Roboto, but not anything good either, because it's just, this is the voice Google speaks with. This is the voice Material UI. Yes, everybody loves Material UI, but this is the thing everybody is using. Android, the default font there. Nothing bad with SF Pro by Apple. Nothing bad with Inter. Just anybody's using it. Yeah, why not? Let's use it. But the thing is your project having the same voice? It cannot be that differentiated here as we saw before with the creepy stalker note things. But maybe these changes here are a bit more subtle. They show personality. Look at this good afternoon. It's good afternoon. Maybe it's a bit more techy, like good afternoon. Here with Titilium, is this your project? Is this its voice? Or maybe it's a bit more approachable, like hug me, good afternoon. Maybe, like here with Signica. They are not super different, it's subtle, but it changes the vibe, the feeling here. Okay, but then again, it's so hard to pick a font. There are so many out there. How could I pick a font? So many. ChatGPT, come on, give me an answer. Give me an answer for that. We saw it, this works. Okay, let's take Quicksand, that's good, interesting. Okay, let's use Quicksand then. So we had Roboto first, yeah. I know you're already half asleep because Roboto, but let's use Quicksand, more interesting. So, no, come on. Quicksand is horrible for UI design. Why? Look at this, it's so delicate, contrasting. The letter shapes are so unusual. Yes, it might be interesting, but it's not interesting for user interface. It should be subtle and interesting. It's just horrible. Come on, how could you suggest this to me? How could you? And it literally stopped working. It froze there and the screencasted it. Maybe they fixed it by now, but I wouldn't guess. Because ChatGPT can see, we know. We learned that by Luke in the morning. But what aspects should you then consider when it comes to the right font choice? So I'm giving you some guidelines or some ideas where you could start for your next project. So when you're doing your next design project, start with the right category. So now I need some user engagement, audience engagement. So which category would you say is a proper one as a rule of thumb for UI design? Is it sans? Say yeah. Is it slab? Say yeah. Come on. Is it serif? Say yeah. Serif is great. Come on. But it's a bad choice for UI design. Yeah. So slab might work, and so for the differentiation, you see this very sturdy, strong slabs here at this centerpiece, which is maybe also working for UI design, depending on the voice of your project. Maybe, yeah. But serif, most of the time, too contrasting, too delicate, wouldn't work. There are gorgeous serif typefaces that might work, but not so much. And I think, quote me on that, slabs are the upcoming stars of UI design. Maybe. Okay, so you chose your category. You know, you filter this stuff on Google Fonts, Adobe Fonts, whatever fonts. And then you have to look at your words and assess how much is the contrast here. And you want this to have little contrast because it should work in small sizes, little contrast. Because here, which of these would you think is working? Is it the first one? Say yeah. The second one? Third one? Okay, safe space, you can say it. I won't throw you out. No. No, you're right. So first one working fine, very even strokes. Second one with right grotesque. Fancy ink traps, we all love them, but maybe not so much in some cases. And play for display. It's a display typeface, which means large, and no. So no. Moving on to the next category, you should always have in mind, letter shapes are open and welcome you into their heart. Which of these welcome you into their heart? Is it the first one? Second one? Third one? Okay. And third one? It's inter. It's your inter. Yes, this is... It's not performing well. Okay, Furasens, good one. And Neue Hell, go to Helvetica. Yes, because really, worst typeface for a user interface. And now let's take a closer look at this, because take a look at the so-called apertures, which are these openings to the surrounding. They are super, super, super close when it comes to Helvetica. And when you scale this down, it might become problematic because you could mix up an C for an O or something like that. It will blend together. And think about, do you know how large the text in the tab bar is on iOS or Android? How many points it is? Does anybody know? 8? No, it's 10. But 10 is ridiculously small. So better use something that's legible. Okay, and the last one is the famous IL1 test. And I will not ask you which typeface, because I don't think you're stupid. I heard that I should address my readers in the readers. I should address people in a way intelligently. So in this case, yeah, IBM Plex works. GeoSense, worst. Also the backstory, horrible. And SF Pro might work under certain conditions. It doesn't always have to be that legible, depending on your use case. For a password, maybe not. For something else, maybe. So these are all some characters, or some characteristics you should keep in mind there. And when we know this now, take a look here at these 5 candidates for our next UI design. This was a long introduction. But what would you say is a good candidate for our banking app? Is it number 1? Nobody? Yeah? Yeah? Some? Okay. Is it number 2? Number 3? Number 4? Yeah, number 5? No, yeah, of course. Because number 1 is quicksand again. Gotcha. But you're good. You're already good. I'm not sure why I'm here at all, but I'll continue anyway. So we have 2 candidates now. We browsed through our font catalog, and there are 2 candidates that kind of work under these criteria. Now it's time to use these or download trial fonts if you purchase a typeface and use it in your design. Why? Because it always looks different in your design. It always looks nice on the font side, but then when you use it, it just looks different. And when you put it in here, we have 2 options, and we have Rubik and Mona Sans, and both look quite fine to me. I personally would say the vibe with Rubik works better. Mona Sans is a bit too light and delicate. Also, the figures are a bit too fine. So let's go with Rubik and choose that one for our design. That's our baseline. That's where we can start. That's actually our first task achieved. Well done. But there's plenty more. You could also have more criteria to look at. Look at the Font Friday archive. There are already 134 typefaces I reviewed in the past 134 weeks. And you can see if they are suited for user interface design or not. And if you want to really go deep and learn about all the other criteria of these 12 criteria, there's also the UI fonts checklist, which you can get and learn a bit more about that. So now we're going to enter the next level. And we already heard a bit about that in Nick's talk, which is about hierarchy. And every great design needs proper hierarchy. And why does it need this? Because to make things clear. And it's a bit like in the military, I would say. And clear typographic hierarchy, sir!
You will not laugh. You will not cry. You will learn by the number.
Oh, that was weird. Okay, it's not that threatening though. Okay, but it's really like in the military. Ask yourself, what's most important? What's the highest rank? What's most important in this view? Of course, as we heard before with the talk from Nick, it depends on what's important also to you, but what might be most important to your users? What is most interesting to them? And when we take a look at this design here, let's make some hierarchy levels, some ranks. I will not use any military analogies anymore, but this is just the idea behind this. What would you say is the most important in this view here? Current balance, yeah. What else? The buttons? Revenue, yes. I'm so rich from YouTube. It's insane. I'm sure why I'm even here. It's so rich. I wish my channel was monetized by now. Okay. No. You. Yeah, earlier this month. True. So looking at this, as we said, the balance might be the top priority. Number 1, this is the most important. Okay, then the functions that I might have there, the buttons to add sending and adding money. And as I heard from Chiara, thanks for taking your place. It is earlier this week, earlier this month, you can see these are headings, but you didn't see because typography failed us. Yeah. And the next one then is the individual transaction, I would say, with the individual amounts, and we have the dates and the labels there. So this is pretty clear. We have to decide, we have to make up our minds what's important. Now moving on here, we can start by setting our hierarchies with size and weights. And I love to start with the body size. So when it starts with 17 points or 16 or what have you, so the defaults, something around that, set this for your main part, for your body text, which in this case would be our individual transactions. And it's in a regular weight. And then what's more important should either be larger or bolder. And in our case, we make our balance larger, not bolder, and our headings in between, we make this semi-bold or some kind of more contrasting. And this alone did so much, just comparing it. This alone makes it, okay, nice animation, yeah, but this alone makes it a little more useful. That's all typography. And so you have this here, and then when you continue, you emphasize this by size and weight. You can now de-emphasize the parts that are not that important. So in this case, we're making it a bit smaller. The dates are not that important, I'd say. Now, we started with the sizes and weights, and now we're adding color. Why? Because accessibility. We should make this work without having to add color. We should make this work just by the pure contrast from the typeface to the background, and then we can make fancy colors. Of course it's blue. And for the background color, we could use an off black, something that's not that contrasting harsh to the white background, or maybe we could make the background of something like gray. Yeah, light gray, you know what I mean, so that the contrast isn't that harsh. All right, and then we're going to make our dates a bit lighter to de-emphasize them again, and suddenly our individual transactions stand out even more. So brilliant, awesome. Ah! Okay. This alley alert. So accessibility guidelines say you need at least 4.521 for your text to have minimum contrast. So let's increase this here. And you see, this is not a tremendous difference comparing these two gray values, but it's a big difference to somebody with a disability in some cases, and it also wouldn't pass an audit. So use a color contrast checker in your design. Easy. So bear it in mind. Now, let's have a date with these dates again. Now you're going to witness a little typography porn. Oh. Now we're going to get in nitty-gritty, delicate stuff. Okay, take a look at that. Here we have font weight 400, so it's regular, and the letter spacing is 0. But it's a small text, and you want small text to be a bit more contrasting and also a bit more spaced out, so that it doesn't blend together that much in the smaller sizes. So you can add some letter spacing or tracking, and just by doing that, take a look, take a look. Ah. Came back again. Ah. So much better. And it's everywhere, it's everywhere. So you see that these small details, they add up, compounding effect, and everything's just prettier and better and more readable. Ah, it's so delightful. Wonderful. Okay, now let's address the next issue here. You already saw that. Who suffered? Who suffered? Yes. Some people suffered. I suffered too because, come on, 1.77 to 1 is ridiculous. Nobody can read this. This is accessible to nobody. So, and in this case, making it more contrasting for a primary button, and hierarchy again, adding a lighter background to a secondary button so that you can also see, I guess sending money might be a task you're doing more often than adding money. And in this case, you have a nice hierarchy. Now we can also go a bit closer here and take a look at our text and change the font weight here to 450. Ah, nice. Because we can do that, variable font power and so on. And now actually we're But again, what happened? Well, actually, the container needs to have a minimum contrast against the background as well. And I learned this too a few months ago when I made a video on that, and somebody was smarter than I was, which is often the case. But in this case, I reached out to the person and asked him what I got wrong, and I made another video about that. So I'm going to share the link at the end of this talk in the description below, but it's not on YouTube, so don't, just at the end of the talk. And you will see then you need to have a minimum contrast for the container so that it is clear that this is clickable. You could argue it is clear out of context. I had this argument as well, but watch the video. And we make it simple by just adding an outline, so it's still a secondary button, but it's de-emphasized. So good 2, go. Wow, a lot happened here. Really, a lot happened here. Just by these small steps, so we need to kind of remember what all happened, because it was so fast, wasn't it? So you first established your hierarchy by using size and weight. And for your body text, this can be between 15 and 17 points, and use the regular weight. Then for your labels, which might be a bit smaller, between 12 and 15 points, medium weight maybe, or semi-bold, depending on your typeface. Here you could increase the spacing, or should. And for your headings, it's 17 to 34 points, whatever, just larger or bolder. And in some cases, you could decrease the spacing so that they do not fall apart that much, because this is made to work for, most of the time, body texts. Fonts are made to work optically in size for body text. So then the words become very long and fall apart. So maybe decreasing letter spacing a bit. Now we established it, and then we highlighted it by using color. And here, some color contrast rules you should comply to make it accessible. All right, my friends, now it's time for our final ingredient. The final ingredient is spacing. And spacing is all about good relationships, or creating good relationships. But yes, they are so complicated. But they only are complicated if they are unclear. And here we have a lot of unclear relationships. Groups are little obvious. It's not very clear what belongs. We solved a lot with the hierarchy, but it's not very clear. So let's make the invisible visible again by showing you the distance between the individual groups, which is here 12 pixels. And I'm switching between points and pixels because it doesn't matter, just to say. And here, looking at this and maybe bumping the distance a bit up, 16 pixels. So in this case, you give it a bit more space to breathe. So let's all breathe. Yeah, nobody does this. Okay. But it's good for your design. Let your design breathe a little. And when you let it breathe, then set a base unit. Use 16 pixels, use 8, use 20, use something, use 17.3498, but I wouldn't because it's complicated. Use something as your base unit, maybe 16 pixels. And then you start to create connections. Isn't it beautiful, creating connections? Things that belong together should be closer. Things that are groups should have a bit space around. And now let's do that. Just, you see it? It changes. It changes. It lives. So, and now, making the invisible visible again. Here, look at your base unit. You had your base unit at 16 points, and then you used fractions or multiples of it, and added this in between your design. So this made everything much clearer and helped a lot. So this is really something that changed so much compared to the one we had before without our proper spacing, and now adding the spacing. And when you now compare this to, let's add some final polish first before we compare it. Because still some nice things you could do. Maybe you could emphasize the balance a bit more and make it a bit stronger with the medium weight, or you could also add a slight background color to our income, progressive enhancement in case it doesn't have to be accessible here. But you see a little difference, and this might be also more delightful. And now we can compare it. Comparing this to the original design with which we started, this is like night and day. This is like night and day. And we did this all not with some fancy photography or illustrations or icons. We did this all with the power of typography. And you're like, yeah, typography. Say it. And I'm like, you're goddamn right. So, now, taking a step back, tying this together, imagine your next project. Because now you know the answer to our initial question. You know how you can make type work for you. Because the next time when you do a design project, think about it, imagine it. Will you use system fonts? No, you won't. Just imagine how much more uniqueness, how much more interesting personality and enhanced readability there will be with individual typefaces. Just imagine how much easier to understand, how much clearer it will be, and also having accessibility in mind with clear hierarchies, giving it a final polish and sophistication with some proper spacing. Because your typographic journey only has just begun. I'm not sure if the word order is correct, but I'm so into it. So, because not I'm reading out from it. And if you want me to join you on your journey, to accompany you, to inspire you, entertain you, whatever, please subscribe on YouTube. Hit that subscribe button and the bell. You know again. And please subscribe to the Font Friday newsletter to get a weekly Font Friday recommendation. Each week, free font, paid font. But most of the time, or my main message here is now that you should go out there and pimp that type. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Oliver.
Of course.
Would you like to join me? We have many questions and concerns. There was one person who had opinions about typography.
Oh.
And there was a question that is, and I have to show it.
Okay.
It's, first of all, it's in Comic Sans.
Nice.
Second of all, it's bold Comic Sans.
Ah, it's a bold statement.
And it's a bold statement, indeed. And then there is also a note which is bold and italic Comic Sans.
So faux italic, because Comic Sans doesn't have any italics.
Oh, it's a faux italic.
Yes.
I had no
yes.
idea that that Comic Sans has it.
I
So
don't have to look at it. I can imagine it. My
No, I think
vivid nightmares. Yeah.
I think
Okay. Yeah. It's artificially skewed. It's even more disgusting now.
well, the question that is brought up in there, however, is very relevant, I think. What's the perfect font size and line length on mobile and on desktop?
Okay, that's a good question. So,
But because the person asked in Comic Sans, you choose to...
yeah, first of all, I want to appreciate the effort the person took to use Comic Sans. Why? Because somehow this stood out more. So, typography. A lesson everywhere. There's a lesson everywhere. So, what's the perfect line length? So, when we're on mobile, we do not have so much influence over our line length because it's kind of limited. We shouldn't make, let's start with desktop maybe. When it's a desktop or a broader window, we have 60 to 80 characters, which is an ideal line length, which would be around 35 Ms or something like that. And in this case, you also need to add more line height, like 1.5, at least 1.7, always depending on the font, because it is always different with the vertical metrics and everything. And longer lines need a longer line height, and shorter lines need shorter line height. And if we now make our viewport narrower, and then it will maybe have 20 Ms or something like that, we cannot really influence that. We shouldn't make our type size really that small, maybe 90% of the desktop starting point, not below the browser defaults though. And then I would suggest that the line height could go to 1.4, 1.3, because then your lines are more compact and you also save some vertical space there.
Okay. Oh, I'm so looking forward to this. Bruno is writing, so I work at the Belgian Railways. That's a good start, right? Um, and actually, the question is, so I work at the Belgian Railways. Can you give some good advice for the colleague working at a ticket design?
Yeah, there's a coaching call on Pimp My Type you can book.
Excellent. Mm-hmm.
But for starting point, there are two big problems with it. Don't want to put it up again because it will be slightly re-traumatizing, I guess. So I think you should at first remove the background image, remove all the colors, which is very evident here. And another thing that I would recommend is to maybe when you take a look at the thing below, it kind of loses focus, and these were some basic ideas.
Okay.
But
Excellent
removing
choices.
the background image would be the best one, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so Bruno, I hope you're listening.
One quick question to you, because I see another slide up there. Did you get the slide where you can download the slides? No? Because then I'll put it up because you can get the slides, just to say. So if you want to switch to that, then in the...
Right, so if we could
Yeah.
maybe show the slides.
And then you get
What
also
was
the resources sent to your inbox with the video and stuff. So just to get this straight, if you're here.
Yeah, I think it's going to come up
Yeah,
eventually
sure.
for a moment. Excellent. Okay, let's jump in a few more questions I think that are coming in. How do you deal with a bad typeface that is defined by the brand guidelines?
Yeah, there's this saying, there are no bad typefaces, there are only badly used typefaces. But yeah, it's not always true, because if the kerning is off and other things don't work. But my trick most of the times when I see this in the brand guidelines, it is that the typeface is more usable for headlines, so for display text. In this case, often it still might work, and you can use it for your headlines, but you see that it really doesn't work for UI text or for body text, then you choose something that is working in combination with this. So this would be an approach.
Okay. Shweta is wondering, some non-UI fonts are pretty good for print design. How do you decide the best font for digital product that is also required to be printed while maintaining branding?
Well, actually, a good UI typeface is also good to be printed, because all these issues with legibility, contrast, and everything is also working there. If it's about the tone of voice, let's say, for example, a serif typeface, which would be maybe more appropriate for this application, then you could, again, use something. There are also typefaces that are serif typefaces, which work in user interface. We're just not used to them. And there might be some hybrids or stuff. So Literata, for example, by Type Together, is also free font, is a gorgeous typeface working in small sizes, also printed, of course, because it's for an ebook made, for ebook design made. So this would work at least. So I'm not sure what the question was.
Yeah, I think that's okay. That's okay. I think that's also there is this interesting thing that we often realize, of course, that whenever you actually start designing in Figma, Adobe XD, and so on and so forth, then you bring it in a browser
Yes.
as HTML, CSS, JavaScript. It's different. It's just different. And so there were a couple of questions around anti-aliasing.
Yes, I hate this. Yeah. And
Please go.
yeah.
Explain yourself.
No, anti-aliasing is basically, it's a good idea. From the it is to make the font smoother, and by default, it actually only affects macOS. And by default, it is something that is turned off in the browser. Then people turn it on by hacking it, turning on grayscale and all this stuff to make it smoother. And in Figma, the fonts use anti-aliasing, and they always look smoother. But when you take a look at it in the browser, it's actually superior. Why? Because it is more contrasting and it's sturdier. We're just not used to it. And the designer thinks it's fancy because it's more delicate, but it's not readable. So I have very strong opinions about it. The only case where you can use anti-aliasing on a Mac is when you use light text on dark background, because then it works better. Why? Because the light text is it's an optical illusion a bit stronger or bolder or seems a bit bolder, and then you can compensate for that. So this is where you can use it. And it will only affect macOS on a computer and not even on mobile, because there it doesn't work. So yeah, I think we're spending a bit too much time talking about anti-aliasing as a whole.
So you have strong opinions about many
Yeah.
things, I can see. There was also a question by Jonas. For mobile apps, what do you think about combining a custom font for brand recognition, for example in headings,
Yeah.
together with system fonts like Roboto,
Yeah.
SF Pro for better loading times readability for body text?
So, honest opinion, go for it. Why not? Because it is, of course, I have to be a bit more theatrical here. Is it theatralisch in Deutsch? Yeah. So dramatic is good. Yeah. I have to be a bit more dramatic here on stage, but my honest opinion is I'm a fraud, and you can use Roboto. But combine it with something that's interesting. Also, this mix of things, as Jonas said, is something that makes something new, something interesting. This is realistic. Maybe it is one step, one tiny step that takes you in that direction, and then it's good. So, great, Jonas.
I also see that very often, not very often, but every now and again we see new fonts coming up that are designed specifically for accessibility.
Yes.
There's like Hyperlegible, for example.
Yes.
There are also a couple for dyslexia specifically.
God, save us from them. Yeah.
What would be your take? For example, in a project like, let's say, in healthcare, there were a couple of people who
Yeah.
were writing about enterprise.
Okay.
Is there a good choice to select one of those?
Yeah, so Atkinson Hyperlegible is an interesting one. It's a great typeface for body text. It's working well. It's also working for UI design, but it uses quite some horizontal space. That's a bit of a downer here, but it's very legible. It's hyperlegible. And you can say it's working
It's
great.
in the wording, in the name.
Yes, it's the worst name to use. I reviewed it on pimmertype.com/font/Atkinson-hyperlegible. You're already sleeping when you're typing this in. But this is horrible to say the name. Anyway, the problem with it is in headings, it's super dull and it uses so much space. So you should combine it with something else. There's also an article about that on pimpmytype.com. And you could use best of both worlds there. For the body text, Atkinson Hyperlegible or some sort of this. And for the headings, also something else. About this open dyslexic and things. Do you know how these typefaces look, open dyslexic? They are very exaggerated. They have a very strong base. And I don't mean to offend anybody personally. I also have a slight dyslexia, but it's just like, it's looking very awful. It's looking very horrible to, I think, most people. And there was a readability study that showed that even these dyslexic typefaces weren't performing best with people that had dyslexia. It was performing better than others, but it wasn't the best. There still was SF Pro, I think, preferred by people that had dyslexia. So you would change the vibe of it totally. And when it comes to healthcare and these issues, you should always strive to make it readable. And serif typefaces are more legible by default, so why not choosing that one as well?
Okay. The final question I want to ask here, which also came up, and it's has a green background.
Nice, yeah.
With it's like we're getting into this notion of we're asking questions in a specific way. Designed, asked in Play Fair Display.
Thank you.
Excellent. Johan is wondering, what's the backstory for the Jill font?
Oh God, okay. Look, I just give you a hint. The typeface itself was great back in the day. Good, but the backstory for Eric Gill is not that great. It's quite horrible as a person. His work and the person, and now we're getting into an argument. But look it up on Wikipedia.
Okay, all right. Do you have any words of wisdom that you want to leave people with? Like if you think about some of the biggest offenders that you find in typography all over, be it in print, be it in design, just send a message to wonderful people who are
Who offended me?
No, the typography that offended you.
Okay.
The biggest mistakes that you definitely need to avoid.
Yeah, well, the biggest mistake actually is not caring about it, not seeing it. And I'm offended every day and I suffer all the time, always. Like in the hotel we stayed in, they use copper plate, or Bank Gothic it is. No, it's copper plate, which has only small caps and caps for the Wi-Fi password. Nobody knows how to type in that password.
It is uppercase, I tried.
It is all uppercase, but the first letter is uppercase, the second is small
Small
caps,
caps.
and then it's, what is it? It's three options. And
But you can just play and try, and eventually you'll
it's
find out.
it was so much fun.
Oh,
Not.
I can imagine. All right. Well, if you have more questions for him, he will be, of course, available after
Yes.
the next session next to the Smashing membership stand. Well, thank you so much for being with us, Oliver.
Thank you for having me.